Chosen ones, listen carefully. There is a certain kind of pain that is hard to explain to anyone who has not lived it. It is the pain of sitting near people who know your name, your past, your history, and still feeling like they do not know you at all. They remember your younger self, your wounded self, your quieter self, your more convenient self, but the real you, the deeper you, the one who has changed through sorrow, healing, and inner awakening, somehow never seems to reach them. And that can make you feel invisible in the very place where you once hoped to feel safest. What makes this wound so confusing is that strangers can sometimes sense your heart faster than family ever does. People you barely know can feel your sincerity, your gentleness, your depth, while those closest to you keep reducing you to an old role that no longer fits. Chosen ones, this is one of the deepest hidden griefs of your path. It is not only that you feel misunderstood, it is that you feel misunderstood by the very people who should have recognized your heart first. That is why this pain feels so personal, so heavy, and so lonely. But hear this clearly. This is not random. It is not proof that something is wrong with you. It is not a sign that you are too sensitive, too deep, or too hard to love. And it does not mean you are losing your mind. There are spiritual reasons for this. There are emotional reasons for this. There are even psychological reasons for this. In this video, we are going to walk through why closeness often creates the deepest misunderstanding, what this pain is really revealing, and how peace begins when you stop begging to be explained to people who are committed to seeing an older version of you. And if this already feels like language for something you have carried in silence, then subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone else who has felt this kind of quiet loneliness. Because the first truth you need to understand is this: the people closest to you can hurt you the most, not because your pain is small, but because your expectation of being seen was so sacred. Number 1. Why the closest misunderstanding hurts the most. What makes this kind of misunderstanding cut so deeply is that it does not come from a distant place. It comes from people whose voices shaped your earliest idea of love, safety, belonging, and home. So when strangers dismiss you, it hurts. But when the people closest to you misread your heart, overlook your depth, or keep treating your spirit like a problem to manage, the pain lands somewhere much older. It touches the part of you that still hoped closeness would mean being known. Chosen ones, this is why those moments can stay with you for years. It is not only about a harsh comment, a cold response, or that familiar look that makes you feel like you are too much. It is the deeper ache of violated expectation. You thought the people who watched you grow would be the ones who could recognize your sincerity. You thought the ones who knew your history would be the least likely to reduce you. But sometimes they are the very ones who see you the least clearly. That creates a special kind of loneliness. It is loneliness in proximity, emotional abandonment, inside connection. The grief of sitting at the same table, hearing the same voices, sharing the same blood, and still feeling strangely unseen. And that grief can make you question yourself, because physical nearness creates the illusion that understanding should already be there. But hear this gently. Your pain is not proof that you are overreacting. It is the natural response to a relational wound that goes deeper than conflict. What hurts is not only disagreement. What hurts is the feeling of not being truly recognized by the people whose recognition once mattered most. And once you understand that, you begin to see that the real problem may not be simple personality clash. It may be that the people closest to you are still relating to a version of you that no longer exists. Number 2, they relate to your old role, not your real self. Sometimes the deepest tension does not come from who you are becoming. It comes from the fact that the people around you were comfortable with who you used to be. Maybe you were the quiet one, the one who absorbed the mood in the room. Maybe you were the sensitive one, the one blamed for feeling too much. Maybe you were the one who kept peace, adjusted quickly, swallowed hurt, and made other people feel less threatened by your silence than by your truth. Chosen ones, this is where so much confusion begins. You think people are rejecting the real you now, but often they are reacting to the loss of the role you once played for them. When you start healing, when you speak more clearly, when you stop apologizing for what you feel, when you trust your own discernment, it unsettles people who learned how to relate to your self-abandonment. Your family did not suddenly become different overnight. In many cases, you simply became less available for the script. And that script was useful to them. Your quietness protected their noise. Your over-explaining protected their avoidance. Your constant adjusting protected their comfort. So when you begin to stand in your own clarity, some people do not experience it as growth. They experience it as inconvenience. That is why they may call you cold, difficult, distant, proud, or changed, when what has really changed is that you no longer disappear to make the relationship easier. This is why that pain can feel so disorienting. You are not just trying to be understood. You are trying to be met as who you truly are, not managed as who you once had to be. And when people keep handing you an old identity that your soul has already outgrown, it creates friction that feels strangely personal. But this pattern did not begin with awakening. In many lives, it began much earlier, in the quiet invalidation of your sensitivity itself. Number 3. Your sensitivity was never the problem. For a long time, you may have been taught to believe that the very thing that made you perceptive was the thing that made you difficult. You noticed tone before words. You felt tension before anyone admitted it was there. You could sense contradiction, sadness, resentment, and emotional distance, even when the room was pretending to be calm. And because you picked up what others were trying not to face, you were often made to feel like the issue was you. Chosen ones, this is where so much damage began. Not in your sensitivity itself, but in the way it was handled. When a child feels deeply in a family that does not understand depth, that child is often called dramatic, too emotional, too intense, too quiet, too reactive, or simply too much. But what if you were not too much? What if you were accurately reading what others had spent years learning to suppress? Some people are wired to process life more deeply. They notice shifts in voice, energy, facial expression, and emotional inconsistency with unusual precision. That is not weakness. That is a form of discernment. That is nervous system intelligence. That is the heart picking up what the surface keeps trying to hide. And when that kind of perception grows up in an environment shaped by emotional neglect, criticism, or denial, the person carrying it often learns to distrust themselves just to survive. That is why awakening can feel so disorienting. It does not always give you something brand new. Sometimes it simply gives language to what your soul already knew. It confirms what you sensed years ago, but were talked out of believing. It brings light to old moments, old rooms, old conversations, and suddenly you realize your sensitivity was never the flaw. It was the instrument. This is why that pain felt different. It was not only the pain of being hurt, it was the pain of being trained to doubt what you accurately felt. And once you begin trusting your own perception again, something deeper starts to happen. The family system that depended on your self-doubt begins to feel the shift. Number 4. Your healing threatens the system that named you wrong. Once you begin trusting what you feel, something subtle starts to shift around you. The tension is no longer only inside your own heart. It begins to appear in the room, in conversations, in family patterns that once felt invisible. That is because every family, whether loving or wounded, builds a kind of balance. Not always a healthy balance, but a familiar one. Everyone learns their role. Everyone learns what can be spoken, what must be swallowed, who keeps peace, who carries blame, who adjusts, and who is expected to remain the same. Chosen ones, when you start healing, you disturb that balance without even trying to. You get quieter, but your quiet is no longer submission. You speak more clearly, but your clarity is no longer defensive. You stop carrying emotions that were never yours to hold. You stop rescuing conversations that were built on denial. And suddenly, the system feels exposed. Not because you attacked it, but because you are no longer feeding it with your confusion. This is why your peace can unsettle people more than your pain ever did. Your pain fit the old arrangement. Your pain helped the pattern keep moving. Your self-doubt made everyone else feel less confronted. But your healing changes the emotional temperature. It removes your agreement with what once kept the family comfortable. And when comfort has been built on silence, truth can feel like disruption. That is why the black sheep is often the one who sees most clearly. The one they misunderstand most is often the one who can no longer participate in inherited confusion. So do not mistake resistance for proof that you are wrong. Sometimes, resistance is what happens when one person stops calling dysfunction normal. This is not punishment. This is not rebellion for its own sake. This is what happens when your inner world becomes honest enough that the outer system can no longer hide behind your old role. And if your very presence now seems to disturb what others have normalized, then the truth may go deeper than psychology alone. Sometimes the struggle is not only emotional, sometimes it is spiritual. Number 5, your light touches what they have learned not to face. There are seasons when you can feel that the tension around you is no longer only emotional. It is quieter than conflict, but heavier than silence. You walk into a room with no desire to prove anything, and still, something in people tightens. You speak gently, but your gentleness does not soothe everyone. Sometimes it unsettles them, not because you are doing anything wrong, but because truth has a way of disturbing what performance has kept in place. Chosen ones, this is where the spiritual layer begins to reveal itself. When you have done enough inner work to become more honest, more discerning, and less available for false peace, your presence starts touching places in others they have learned not to face. Their grief, their denial, their envy, their buried shame, their habit of calling dysfunction normal. This does not mean you are better than them. It means that what has become clear in you can quietly expose what is still avoided in them. That is why your light is often misunderstood, not because light is cruel, but because light makes hidden things visible. And people do not always resist truth with loud words. Sometimes they resist it with distance, irritation, mockery, or a strange discomfort they cannot even explain. You become the mirror they did not ask for. This is also why so many awakened people notice something almost tender in contrast. Children often soften around them. Animals often trust them quickly. Strangers sometimes sense their sincerity faster than family does. Meanwhile, the people closest to them become tense when the conversation gets too real. If you have lived that contrast, if you have felt more understood by strangers, children, or even animals than by your own family, then let that be part of the conversation here. Leave a like, share this with someone who needs it, and comment if this has been your experience too. Because once you understand that your presence may be stirring more than simple disagreement, you begin to see that this pattern is older than your own story. Number 6. Even the truth is often rejected in its own home. There is something especially painful about carrying real insight and watching it be treated like inconvenience by the people who know your name best. Not because your words are harsh, but because your growth no longer fits the version of you they stored away years ago. Familiarity can create a strange kind of blindness. The people who watched your early wounds, your awkward seasons, your younger confusion, can struggle to honor what has emerged through your suffering, your healing, and your calling. They keep reaching for the old outline, even while your soul has become a different text. Chosen ones. This is why being dismissed close to home can feel so spiritually disorienting. You are not only dealing with disagreement, you are dealing with the ache of being seen through yesterday. And that pattern is older than your personal story. There is a sacred reason this pain echoes so deeply in the hearts of those called to carry truth. Even in Scripture, the one sent with insight was often least received by those nearest to him. A prophet had no honor in his own town, among his own people, in his own home, not because the truth lacked weight, but because familiarity made others too casual with what was holy. That same pattern can appear in your life now. The people attached to your past may treat your wisdom like an irritation, because receiving it would require them to reorder how they see you. It would require humility. It would require them to admit that the one they once dismissed has become clear, grounded, and awake in ways they did not expect. So, let this reassure you. Their inability to honor what is growing in you is not proof that it is not real. This is not punishment. This is not you being too much. Sometimes the truth is rejected first where it is closest. And even when you begin to understand that, another battle remains. The guilt of no longer chasing their approval the way you once did. Number 7. The real battle is not only rejection, it is guilt. By the time you reach this part of the journey, the pain is no longer only about being misunderstood. It is also about what happens inside you when you finally start responding differently. You answer less. You explain less. You stop rushing to repair every strained conversation. You begin to pull your energy back from places that keep mishandling it. And even when that distance is necessary, something inside you can still ache, because part of you still loves them. Part of you still wants peace. Part of you still wishes that if you were gentle enough, patient enough, clear enough, maybe they would finally understand. Chosen ones, this is where guilt becomes the hidden battlefield. Not because you are cruel, but because you have been taught to confuse love with access. You were taught that loyalty means staying available, even when closeness keeps costing you your peace. You were taught that compassion means enduring what keeps wounding you. You were taught that patience means remaining open to patterns that have shown no real desire to change. So when you set a boundary, it can feel like betrayal. When you speak less, it can feel cold. When you stop over-functioning in the relationship, it can feel selfish. But that is not always truth. Sometimes it is old conditioning, grieving the loss of your self-abandonment. Boundaries are not punishment. Silence is not cruelty. Distance is not hatred. Sometimes they are the only honest forms of stewardship left. This does not mean every relationship must end. It does not mean every misunderstanding is malicious. But repeated invalidation does require discernment. You are not broken for needing peace. You are not wrong for refusing to keep bleeding just to prove you care. And once guilt stops sitting on the throne, something new begins to open. You begin to see what healing looks like when your life is no longer organized around being finally understood. Number 8. Peace begins when you stop needing them to confirm you. There comes a quiet turning point in healing that does not always look dramatic from the outside. Nothing around you may change right away. The same people may still misunderstand you. The same old responses may still appear, but something inside you begins to loosen. You stop collapsing every time they do not see you. You stop making their understanding the measure of your worth. And for the first time in a long time, your peace is not hanging by the thread of someone else finally getting it right. Chosen ones, this is where self-belonging begins. Not when everyone apologizes, not when every relationship becomes easy, but when you stop over-explaining your heart to people committed to misreading it. When you stop performing your pain in a way that makes it easier for others to digest. When you stop defending what your soul already knows. The old pattern was exhausting. Prove yourself, clarify again, soften more, try one more time. But the new pattern is quieter, clearer, more rooted. You share less where things are always distorted. You speak where there is sincerity. You withdraw where there is only appetite for your old role. This is not bitterness. It is discernment. It is not revenge. It is stewardship. Healing does not always mean they finally understand you. Sometimes it means you no longer abandon yourself while waiting for them to. That is a holy kind of freedom. And once that freedom begins, something beautiful starts to emerge. You begin to notice the people, places, and callings where your depth is not treated like a burden. Not fantasy, not escape, but real alignment. A soul family can begin there. Honest connection, safe resonance, mutual recognition. You also grieve what will never be, and that grief matters. But now, it no longer owns you. Because this whole painful path has been teaching you something deeper than survival. It has been shaping your discernment, your boundaries, your voice, and your sense of who you are meant to become. Number 9, this was never proof that you were broken. If you carry this wound deeply, then it can begin to distort the way you see yourself. You can start to believe that if the people closest to you could not understand you, then maybe there is something in you that is too difficult to love, too strange to hold, too complicated to name. That is the quiet cruelty of this kind of pain. It does not only hurt your heart, it tries to rewrite your identity. Chosen ones, do not let it. The misunderstanding you experienced was real, but it was never a verdict on your worth. It was never proof that your sensitivity was weakness. It was never proof that your loneliness meant failure, and it was never proof that your path was invalid just because the people nearest to you could not recognize what was growing in you. Some people can only understand the version of you that made them comfortable. When you outgrow that version, their confusion is not always a sign that you have lost yourself. Sometimes it is the first sign that you are finally finding yourself. What felt like rejection was also teaching you discernment. What felt like abandonment was also forcing you into self-trust. What felt like being left out was also making room for a different kind of belonging. This is why that season could not be wasted. It was shaping your inner authority. It was refining your boundaries. It was teaching you how to remain true without begging to be translated. Some relationships may soften with time, and some may never become what you once hoped they would be. But peace does not have to wait for universal understanding. Your healing does not need everyone to agree with it. Your calling does not need everyone to affirm it. You were not meant to disappear inside old expectations. You were meant to become clear enough to carry truth without apology, and gentle enough to carry it without bitterness. And if this message feels like confirmation for a journey you have been carrying mostly alone, then stay connected here. Subscribe, like, and share this with someone whose heart may need these words too. Because you were never broken. You were being prepared to belong to yourself and to walk in truth with peace.